There was something that I just said a moment ago I wanted to talk about and give them credit for, and I don't remember what it was. So, he never remembered. Welcome to part two of my season two. I don't even know what to call this because it's not a review. Is it a review? No. It's not a review. It's like, I guess, a thoughts video. Yeah. Yeah, that's what it is. Like a Wicked City thoughts video reaction to season two. Girl, I don't know. Whatever we're gonna call it, welcome to it. So in the last part, we talked about the relationships in season two. We talked about some character development, things like that. If you want to watch it, please go back and do so that way you'll know a little bit more about what I'm talking about in this part of the video. So it's time to get to the meat of what I really want to talk about today, and that is the villain, Julius. The fact that Julius has had his hand in this story since season one. Babe, listen. I love a villain with a plan. Love it. I love a villain with a plan. Because I feel like when a villain has a plan, it makes them that more dangerous and ominous. And when we find out that... okay, again, here's some spoilers. If you do not want spoilers, do not continue on past this point. I have warned you. I'm going to give you 5 seconds. Alright, so your 5 seconds is up. When we find out that Julius is the one... First off, let's just start at the fact that he conceived Camille specifically with Claudette. When they found Claudette as a child, or I think they found her and Caden as children, the fact that he found her and he knew that they killed children or people with death magic, and he specifically saved Claudette so that he could then reproduce with her specifically for a vessel for Oya. Baby, let me tell you something. The way I was gagged, the way I thought to myself, I understand fully why Claudette is the way she is. I could not imagine a person telling you that they saved your life as a child so that they could then in turn conceive a child with you so that they could use that child to summon a god. Like, are you kidding me? That is beyond what I ever would have expected for a villain on this show. I'm not even gonna front. I don't know whether that's a compliment. I don't know what that is. I don't know how to classify that. I would not have thought that I would see a villain who thought so far ahead that he saved this child specifically. Crazy. I mean, and then we get into like the grooming aspect of it, but that's kind of my point. It's like he was willing to do whatever. Listen, the level of detail in his plan, the fact that he is the one who sent Javi to unalive Kendria so that, oh God, so that Camille would come find them. I'm like, are you serious, man? Now let me say this. Let's stop for a second, because I do want to address Kendria and what happened to her. This is really should have been saved for my nitpick section, but I really want to bring it up right here. I personally feel like Kendria's death was really glossed over in this season because they kind of revealed it quick as a flash. And I think that it may be a detriment that Camille wasn't here, because even though I feel like Camille not being here helped the story be more well-rounded, I do think that she should have made an appearance very briefly so that, number one, we could see her interact with Julius, but then also she can be a part of the reveal of why she was conceived in the first place, and also finding out how her mother was killed. Like, I think Camille should have been here for some of that, because some of it was just like, oh, Wow. It was like, and then I forgot that Charisse didn't know. So when Charisse found out that Camille was her daddy, was, Julius's daughter, she was like, what? And then it felt like she just kind of was like, okay, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's the only part of the story that Camille not being here for sort of was like, who really cares? I don't think the writers meant for that to happen, but I do think that Camille not being here sort of didn't give us any real connection to her, to the like emotional connection, but I do think that it reinforced how dangerous Julius is. So now that I got that out the way, let me drink some water before I die. Crisp. So speaking of Camille and Julius being her father, we find out that Julius has 26 other children. Now, what's interesting about this is that his children have been spread out through the centuries. So it's not like he just has 26 children at once. He's had 26 children, most of whom he has killed himself. And the villainy in that is just, like, he referred to his own children as experiments. He called them experiments. And I didn't know what to do with that. Because I was like, what do you mean experiments? But that's how detached he was from them. Is that they meant nothing to him. They weren't like, oh, these are my children and I'm going to come to love them. No, he didn't care. It was to the point where he loved the well, not love, because I don't think Julius is capable of love. But he cared more about the handler than he did his own daughter. Like, he chopped his daughter's head off so that he could teach the handler to let go. Like, are you serious? Like, I know I'm squealing.
I'm sorry, I'm so embarrassed, but
what that showed me is that this man has no care in the world about anything or anyone that is not himself. And to the point where he was even being a hypocrite with the council when he was telling them that they didn't care about helping people, they didn't care about anything because they were only out for themselves. Now, I do think that the show missed an opportunity to say that Julius used to. I think they tried to show that, but I think it got lost in translation because nobody ever really said it. That Julius initially really does care about resetting the world, and that he really did want to help slaves. He really did want to help people. I think they missed that chance to say, but somewhere along the line, his vision got blurred. Because I think that would have added that layer to him of us seeing that he was at one point human. Because the way it kind of came off was like he just wanted to be in control of something. And something meant the world. Like, he wanted to be in control. And I do think that they tried it, because when he was talking to the handler, I think his name was Isaac at that time, but when he was talking to him, he was like, our people are in chains when we should be better. But at the same time, I kind of feel like the rhetoric within that was that he really didn't care about slavery. He didn't really care about black people. He really only cared about them being above humans, the mundanes. Like, I really think that was supposed to be the focus of it. Now that I go back and think about it, I think maybe that was supposed to be the point, was that even within wanting to free us, it wasn't necessarily about us being free. It was about us being dominant. So, come on, afterthought. Now, what I did kind of want to understand more about is how and why Julius thought that summoning a goddess was going to work in his favor. Because, baby, this goddess is going to be a powerful being. You can't possibly think that she's going to just be cool and be like, yeah, Julius, what you need me to do? So I kind of think that it should have been a little bit more established from the beginning that he intended to summon the goddess so that he could steal her power. I don't know, man. I don't know. Because One thing I absolutely love about Julius was using some magic. Do you understand me? Like when he made Javi look in the flames and he did that little thing to put that vision in Javi's head, which I assume is what he did, baby. And then when Darlitra had her little power thing and he was like, okay. But one of my favorite moments was when Claudette tried to use her death magic on him. And he looked like he was being affected for a moment. And then he was like, you're trying to rot my insides. And he was like, and he threw her back. I was like, oh my God. This man is powerful. This man is really, really powerful. And I love the fact that through him, we get to see what a full-blown witch is capable of. Because I feel like Tabitha was kind of and magic-wise. I feel like Claudette probably is the closest we got. But Julius, I feel like, was really showing us what magic is capable of. And I feel like we got a chance to see a little bit more of that with Angela. Because when Angela was cutting up when she was under his spell, and she made that tornado thing, and she was moving people and doing this and doing that, and then she reformed the church and whatever else. The fact that she had that kind of power in her, and Julius was still able to mind control her, gagged. I don't know what the budget was this season. I couldn't tell you to save my life what the budget for Wicked City season 2 was. But my God in heaven, they used every single penny of it. Do you hear me? And you may call the effects cheap. You may do whatever you want to do with it. But baby, let me tell you something. They spent the money. Between the graphics and between the quality of the cameras, between the hair and the clothes, except for Jordan, because Jordan was low-key wearing the same outfit every episode. Baby, eight down. Do you understand me? They used that budget and they said, listen, we're going to do what we need to do. Another thing I think was really an important aspect of Julius's character that I don't feel like was actually said is the fact that the vessels that he wanted to use up until Angela were all of his blood. He was creating children so that he could use their magic or their whatever to summon her. Because his daughter was a vessel. He intended for Camille to be a vessel. Queen Savage said that she was going to be the vessel until Camille was born. He used his kids in the ritual or whatever to take their power and whatnot. Like Julius, I feel like, even if it was subconsciously, had this idea that something about him was innately better than everyone else. And I feel like he thought his bloodline and his magic being passed down was gonna be what was able to summon the goddess. Like that was what I got from it. And even though they never said it, I think that was a really, really important part of his character. Because he could have very easily just gone around looking for people. He could have very easily just went around trying to piece together whatever. No, he was creating children specifically for this. Because even though he had no attachment to them and he didn't care about them, he still wanted a part of himself to be in that ritual. But you see, he didn't use himself. He didn't try to bring the goddess into himself, which I'm sure probably wouldn't have worked because it seemed very matrilineal. So I feel like the goddess wouldn't have come into a man. But you see, he didn't even try to summon her power into himself. He was like, let me go ahead and do this. And you know what? It might have been intentional that he had daughters because maybe he thought that the goddess would only come to a woman. Maybe that's a rule of it. We don't know. But, come on, answers for season 3. That actually brings me back to another thing about Julius that I'm very curious about. They said he was old, but I want to know how old. Because this man had adult children in slave times. And by the time we see the handler, he said he had been with Julius for 50 years. So that makes me wonder, how old is this man? But even outside of that, that makes me wonder how old witches can live to be. Because I'm assuming witches can live to be pretty old. I don't know, child. I don't know. The council was interesting to me because I wondered up to this point if only black people could be witches, but clearly not. And I don't even know why I thought that, because there were other races at the beginning with the handler that were coming to put their magic into the whatchamacallit. And even the guy that he, took his head off, I think that guy was not black. So I don't know why I thought that, but for some reason I did. And then I was like, okay, well, this is just, I guess Julius is like focusing on the black witches. I don't know. When we find out that this man gave Claudette a potion to make her lose her baby so she would bring it back, that was the only thing. Because my thing with him was, he put a lot of trust in Claudette bringing Camille back to life. Because what if Claudette had decided that she wanted to follow the rules? What if she had decided that she wanted to, just like, oh, I lost my baby? But I feel like he kind of knew that Claudette wouldn't let that happen if she had access to death magic. So it's like, that could be just Julius being really smart and intuitive. But I low-key kind of at points felt like, oh, okay. We put a lot of trust into this one thing. So that was my only little thing. One of my only little gripes about Julius is I felt like the plan kind of hinged on him, on Claudette acting a certain way. And but then it's like he knows Claudette. He literally made Claudette into who she was. So it's like, of course, he knew she would bring the baby back to life. But that does make me think, what about Angela was different that she could handle the power in a way that his children couldn't? Especially, and I know that he said that it was the different types of magic that were coming together that would probably make Camille the best vessel. But that makes me wonder, what was different about Angela? Was it the fact that her power had to do with nature, and that's why she was able to take the goddess into herself, because her power was already connected to nature? I think that would have been a really, really good point to explore, because really it was just an accident that it was Angela. It wasn't intentional. It was not on purpose at all. Like, it was literally meant to be Camille, and he put Claudette was the one who took the goddess power, which I will get to a little bit later on, and took the goddess power and put it into Angela. So it's not like, but then it makes me wonder, like, did Claudette know something about, genuinely, she was just trying to save Camille. It didn't seem like she was like, yeah, you can handle the power. It really seemed like she just like, girl, I just got to get out of her, and I'm sorry, but it's you. Like, I don't think it was specifically Angela. She would have put it in Jordan. She would have put it in Tabitha or Caden if she could have. But I don't know. That was something I wish we had explored a little bit more, but oh well. It's not, I don't think it's going to make or break the story being good. It just would have been something nice to know. One thing about this season that I really, 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 really enjoyed was the culture that we got towards the end of it. Because the fact that they were bringing in an African goddess and they were talking about African lore, I feel like that's so important, because that made me want to go back and research. That made me want to go back and understand more about who this goddess is. And I'm so scared to say her name again, because I feel like I'm messing it up, because I don't remember how they said it, and I don't want to be insensitive. But I think it was so important to show that, because it does pique your curiosity. And it makes you, I love the fact that it was normal. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like, oh, we need to go look up who this goddess is. No, Charisse, who they had already established, her family had been practicing magic since before slave times. Charisse already knew who she was. Julius knew who she was. Like, this wasn't some, oh, well, African magic girl, I don't know nothing about that. No, it was important. And it was important to the story that it was a core of who they were. I loved that. I absolutely loved it. And just as much as I loved that, I love the fact that they brought up slavery. Like, and because when the handler was like, well, why aren't they intervening? Julius was like, well, because they're more focused on themselves and they're on gaining power for themselves versus actually helping our people. Baby, let me tell you something. Bravo. Because I think that what a lot of stories ignore sometimes when there's like a magical history behind something is, well, we did have this Lord, why was I finna say natural disaster? we did have this huge thing that happened in our history. And why didn't someone step in? Why didn't someone make a change? And I think that's another reason that I get frustrated with the fact that they didn't say that Julius wanting to bring up the goddess was him being tainted, because I think it was really important for him to be upset that they weren't trying to help our people. They literally were just trying to gain more power. They were not even focused on this huge thing that they could have avoided, because I kept thinking as time went on, well, all it would take is a couple of witches, because a couple of witches with magic is really all you need. But for something like that, I do feel like it would be too easy if it was just one or two people. If people figure out like who you are, then they just gonna unalive you, because it's not like the witches are invulnerable. They're not, whatever. Like, they can be killed. And even if you had someone like Sharice's, with Sharice's power, Sharice can only go so far. It's not like she can gather up every single person in the United States of America and use her power on them. And I think that is some commentary that was touched on, and it would have really been impactful if they had specifically said that. But I love what we got. I do love what we got, because I think it starts a better conversation. And really, I think it's something that you can branch off into. And it is something that you can talk about. It is something that you can get a little deeper into. So from that angle, I 100% love it. I love the fact that it was very, in this show that I feel like is already very black in nature, I feel like that made it even more for black people, if that makes any sense. Because with so many supernatural shows, we get these people walking around in the 1800s, whatever, and they're just living their life because they don't have to worry about being black. Like, as much as I love Charmed, even in All Halloween's Eve, when they went back in the past, they went to the 1600s. Nobody was trying to hang them because they were black. They were trying to hang them when they found out that they were witches, but that's it. So for me to see someone address slavery was, I can't tell you, baby, that was impactful. That was impactful in a way that I feel like if you're just watching it just to watch it, you might not get. But when you watch it and you really think about the story, and you think about how old these people are, and you think about what we've been through as a society, baby, y'all did that. So now it's time for me to get to a few little nitpicks I had. It's not much. I'm not gonna hold y'all. It's just little stuff that I think, I don't know what the cause of it is, and so I'm not going to say, because I don't want to, whatever. The first thing on this list for me is the reunion with Sharice. Baby, Sharice coming home was giving very much, oh girl, I just got back from Walmart and them people was crazy. Girl, let me go lay down. Like, it was giving very that. It was giving, I went to the store to go pick some stuff up and thought I was going to be home in about 20 minutes, but it took me an hour and a half, and now I'm going to go kick my feet up and relax. Like, it was giving that. It didn't feel, I don't know. I don't know. And I guess maybe at first I tried to say like, well, maybe it's because Angela had been talking to Sharice through the book, but I was like, no, because they still would have been excited to actually see her hold her. And then when Sharice came to the door in that ugly Kmart shirt, which I was like, girl, why are you wearing what Pam was buried in on True Blood? But I was like, did she just knock on the door? They hugged, and then we sitting down on the couch talking, and now we gotta go. Like, I'm not understanding how we got from point A to point B. It felt very much like, girl, we need the story to move along, and we didn't have no time for all the extra, so let's just here, take her. And then when Sharice was standing there on the rooftop with the handler and Queen Savage, I was like, okay. And then later on, Sharice is just there. She's just part of the group again, and Sharice is like, oh girl, I miss this place. It sounded like she had been away at college and then she came home. That's what it was given. It was given, this was my first semester of college and now I'm back and I can't believe it. And it's like, oh girl, I miss this place. What? like, I don't know. It felt very strange to me that there wasn't more emotion put into it. And I feel like we just kind of got over it quick. And then, like, I don't remember if it was the same night or maybe the next night. We got Jordan laying in Angela's lap, and she's crying over Javi. And I was like, I don't know. It just, girl, I don't know. Speaking of Javi, I felt like it wasn't clear at first whether he was Julius's child, because I thought he was Julius's son. And that he was like, I found my father after my mother died, and he whatever. Like, that was what I thought about, what I thought was going on. And then later on, they were like, he was like, I couldn't love you any more than if you were my own child. And I think that was supposed to be a parallel to the handler and how he had taken the handler in as his protege. But I still felt like it wasn't clear at first. Girl, I don't know. I mean, it makes sense when you compare him to the handler, because clearly Julius is willing to manipulate people any way he can. I don't know. Another thing that I really wanted to bring up that frustrated me a little bit was the goddess powers. Because I feel like we just constantly were saying the goddess powers were put into Camille, the goddess powers were put into Angela, but we never got into what the goddess powers were. Because what does this mean? Because I think at one point somebody even said, what are the goddess powers? And they were like, oh, it was put into Camille so she could handle the goddess. And that's fine. But I need to know where the goddess powers come from. Is this a power from a stone? Is this a power from just some power that he gave her and called it the goddess powers? Like, what are the goddess powers? Because it was such a huge element of the story, but I feel like it was just like, oh, well, okay. You can figure out what it is. That's what it felt like. So I probably would have gone a little bit deeper into that if it was me. The last thing that I want to say is that I felt like towards the end of the story, we moved a little quickly. Like, towards the end of the story, we were kind of moving at breakneck speeds. And I think that that's why things like Camille's mama, you know, and how she was killed, I think that kind of got, like, pushed aside. Even with Javi, after everything that got revealed, it felt more like he was just kind of out the story. Like, he helped them, and then he was like, can we fix things? And Jordan said no, and then he left. And I was like, so we're not calling the police? We're not you know what I mean? Like, this man killed Darletra's friend. I don't know. I just felt like his storyline just kind of got, like, pushed to the side towards the end. But I think everything sort of moved fast. There wasn't any real, like, moment to process things. Now, again, I do think that that's partly because from a story perspective and from a writing perspective, we don't have time for all of that. You know, there's this huge threat going on, which I do love, by the way, that it was a global threat versus an internal threat. It was like, we don't really have time for Jordan to be upset. We really don't have time for Angela to be upset. We really don't have time. You know what I mean? Like, we have to process all of this very quickly, and we really don't have time to sit here and be upset about things because we have something bigger going on. And I think from a writing perspective, again, you have 8 episodes. So you don't have a whole season for people to be out of sorts and start acting different and do this and that. No, we gotta solve the problem. So from that aspect, I can let it go, but I do think that sort of took me out of the story at times. That, and I hate to say that, but it did. I feel like at times it not enough for me not to enjoy it, but enough for me to be like, okay, wait, did I miss something? Because it was like people were just like over stuff quick. And even Caden, I feel like, kind of moved on quick from Claudette trapping her and Tabitha in the sword. They kind of had to, but it felt more like, well, can she be mad for a minute? Can she not talk to her or something? Like, what are we doing? Why do we have to just move on? So it was just little things like that. There was something that I just said a moment ago I wanted to talk about and give them credit for, and I don't remember what it was. So if you don't follow me on TikTok, then you need to, because that's where you can find everything. Wicked City, Charmed, Buffy, whatever you want to see me talk about, find me on TikTok, and now to get your 10, we talking about it. So And you can follow me at They Call Me Mr. G. You can really follow me at They Call Me Mr. G anywhere. I mean, like, really and truly anywhere that there's a social media, you can probably find me there under that name. On Instagram, I also have a review for my podcast. I have a review page, and it's called Mr. G Reviews. But yeah, you can find me anywhere if They Call Me Mr. G. I do have a podcast with my friends called the Nexus Podcast, where we talk about Charmed, we talk about other TV shows, and I have my own podcast called Mr. G Reviews, where I talk about different movies. I'm thinking that I'm gonna do another TV show because I was doing a Discovery of Witches, and y'all, it just so if you want to see any of that content from me, please feel free to follow me. Feel free to follow me anywhere you want to, and usually I have a link tree somewhere nearby where you can click on it, find me, and go from there. So thank y'all so much for sitting here and listening to me talk. Thank you so much for being here with me, and go watch Wicked City on the All Black app. I promise you shan't regret it. And you can find me anywhere on social media and let me know what you thought of it. So, alright. See y'all later. Bye. What the fuck? Bye.